Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLions.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we're running separate this morning so that we can get this stuff up to you guys. A little hitch in the schedule there, but Nate is going to be bringing you his best bets as well as myself. We're just going to be doing that a little bit separately, so I'm going to toss over to Nate so he can get into it, and then we'll go from there. Same concept in the the player prop bets that we have up in the other episode. We're bringing 2 episodes to you each and every weekday, one with player props, one with sides and totals. This one's got the sides and totals for you, so make sure to subscribe to that page and don't miss any of the action. We're bringing you all NBA season. Let's toss it over to Nate for his first best bet of the night.
Yeah, it might not be the best for spot bettors here, but I do like the Heat over the Hawks. It's only -1. It is the biggest game of the night in terms of playoff implications. I suppose both teams will be on a back-to-back. Heat are at the disadvantage here because, of course, flying from Milwaukee to Atlanta stays home. While Milwaukee's maybe a tougher opponent than Detroit, like the fact that you give up 148 to Detroit shows me where the Hawks are at defensively. They're now dead last in terms of field goal percentage at the rim, 76% in their last 6. Clint Capella, not necessarily a big part of those plans. I mean, since losing Jalen Johnson, their defensive rating has plummeted. They're 24th in the league. They're 4-12 straight up, losing him two games into that stretch. So even had him for a few. Now -5 net on the season without Jalen Johnson. -5 net in the clutch in that span, and 3-7 straight up. So Miami looking much better in the clutch, able to win that overtime game against Toronto. I mean, excuse them a little bit for how they went into the break because they had at least 3 guys who were violently ill as they were integrating new pieces after the Jimmy Butler trade. But now it's like a totally new day in terms of culture. Now you got Jimmy out of there. You got Tyler Hero putting his big boy pants on, essentially. Is like a budding superstar, it appears. Totally in control of this offense. I don't see why he doesn't roast Atlanta like Cade just did in terms of setting everybody else up, getting his. And then you have on the other end, like a tough matchup for Atlanta's clunky front court, I would call it, in terms of, the big 3, the Ware, Adebayo, Wiggins defensive pairing that can really limit everybody else. And the Heat, Spo in general, have done a really good job historically of holding down Trey. Basically, Trey has had to explode offensively for Atlanta to win games the last few. He was a tough matchup for Orlando, got them that win before the break. And then Orlando turns right around and limits him even without Jalen Suggs. You get Rozier back in here for at least a part-time role. You have Davion Mitchell, very, very key here. I'm sure that's what Josh is going to want to lead with is Davion Mitchell on Trey, is why you like the Heat. And yeah, we're taking the Heat now. We are no longer shying away from them in general because of the Jimmy Butler factor and the not try hard. This is a team that now is more egalitarian, able to respond better to Spo's kind of that type of coaching, which is, to rotate guys in based on how well they're playing, how hard they're playing. And they are actually tied 7th best in the league, 6-4 on back-to-backs, plus 3.5 against the spread. Shows you where you're at in the NBA when just being a tick above 500 is a top 10 record on a back-to-back. But they tend to surprise you. That's the thing, right? I mean, it's like anytime you think the Heat are going to collapse, like end of a 4-game road trip. I mean, you got the All-Star break in here. In a tough spot where they do get Atlanta at home just 2 nights later and say like, oh, they're going to pack it in and wait for that one. Like, no, I think we get a full effort here from the Heat. And I don't think the Hawks have been quite as good as they've looked at times right now, just based on the injuries that we've seen out there.
My first pick, I'm looking at the Brooklyn and Washington game. Maybe not the sexiest matchup of all time, but I will say Brooklyn has been a wagon when it comes to defense over the course of the last 12 games of the season. They are the number 1 rated team on defense in the league, whether you want to believe that or not. In their last 10, they're 7-3. That's straight up and against the spread. In their last 5, 4-1 with just 1 loss there. Doing some really nice things here on defense is really what it comes down to. If you look at the way that they're limiting the paint, that's going to be everything. And they're really dominating the paint on both sides of the floor. You look at the way that they're giving up paint points, not very many. They have the number 3 rated paint field goal. Like they're giving up the 3rd worst opponent field goal percentage in the paint and at the rim as well. They're in the top 8 for that. So like everything down low for them with Claxton, Day'Ron Sharp, and when Noah Clowney has been healthy, has been working a ton. And we know that's where Washington is the weakest. We've been talking about their inability to guard centers, to guard down low since a long time from now. I want to say the Reagan administration, like since they were the Washington Bullets, essentially. They have not been able to limit anything down low, and that continues to be the case for them this season as they are giving up the second most shots attempted at the rim, which is leading to the second most made. So it's just, the most made on the season. They've been a little bit better in the last 10, getting to second worst. So not much to like for Washington down low. And then the offensive rebounds as well, which just adds to the down low presence that we're talking about for the Nets. Down low on the offensive rebounds, they've had the 5th best offensive rebound percentage, leading to the 7th most second chance points over the course of the last 10 games. And this Washington team, as we know, continues to just hemorrhage second chance points. They continue to turn the ball over as well. We should mention that's going to be a huge problem for them, is they have the 2nd worst turnover percentage in the league over their last 10, and they're 6th worst on the season. So it's like they're bottom 5 no matter what. But the Nets on the season, 6th best, forcing turnovers, number 1 in the last 10 games. They've really stepped up this defense above the break. You see guys like Keon Johnson and the like. Even when Jalen Wilson gets out there, there's just some athletes on the wings for this squad. They're going to keep shutting you down up top. They don't have D'Lo and they don't have Cam Thomas, which means they have no weaknesses on that wing defense. And I like them to be able to handle this game versus the Wizards by at least 3 points.
Yeah, trying to take the Kings minus 10.5 if you can still get it. It's minus 11 a lot of places here, but I mean, Charlotte could easily lose by 50, as we saw in their last outing at Portland. Like, they seem to care about beating the Lakers coming out of the break. That was absolutely sure a thing, and that was because of where LaMelo was at. So if you look at this situationally, I mean, after the complete egg in Portland, this is a front end of a back-to-back for Charlotte, and they are at Golden State tomorrow. And LaMelo passed up by Golden State in the draft, if you remember. So here's another motivation spot for LaMelo to actually come out and play really hard. He might even sit in this game, but probably even better for our benefit is if LaMelo and Mark Williams both play and they just mope about like they did against Portland, because Mark Williams right now is just kind of the guy like staring out the window with his hands on his chin, like, why am I still here? I'm supposed to be on a contender. And I mean, his defense was never good, but now he's gonna just get absolutely whooped down low by Sabonis while he's out there. If you say like, oh, maybe we get Nurk out there more with Mark Wills not playing well, or if he's inactive, well, Sabonis is averaging almost a triple double his last 6 against Nurk, plus 19 this season, and 2-0 are the Kings against those Suns with Nurk out there as the primary center. So I'd really only be worried if Diabate is going to get a full slate run. But I mean, this matchup's about more than just Sabonis. Sabonis is a Swiss Army knife who can affect the game in multiple ways. He doesn't need to necessarily just like pummel you down low. And this is a DeMar DeRozan team now, and Charlotte is the 7th worst mid-range defense on the season. They are also, really struggling to guard the rim because of those center issues that I mentioned. So get a lot going to the basket here if you're DeRozan, Monk, Levine, that whole trio. Kings have had 2 days off to stew after getting whooped by the Warriors here. And just like another wake-up call for them coming out of the break is just like, hey, we are exactly 500. We are clinging right now to a play-in spot. Like, they got to handle business. I know they've been awful against the spread this year, but I think the fact that Charlotte is just like totally sag for flag mode at this point probably trumps that. You look, they have the 1 win against the Lakers, but their last 7 roadies still 1-6 straight up, 102 offensive rating, -16 net. So I mean, what do they even do well is crash the glass sometimes, like especially if Diabate's out there. But Sacramento's not top 3 in rebounding in their last 6, even with the offensive struggles at times, and they're top 2 limiting your field goal percentage at the rim in their last 6. So despite allowing a lot of attempts, because people will try Sabonis, he has that kind of voodoo to me. Like, you're not still going to make you miss somehow. And I don't really trust Charlotte to burn you consistently from deep, especially if LaMelo's not in a motivation spot. Like, we saw how quickly he just like packed it in against Portland once they were guarding the 3-point line. And I think he at least like trying to read the mindset here. He probably cares a lot more about showing out against the Warriors tomorrow.
Final look for me on the best bets here, going to the Utah and Portland game in Utah. And we're taking Portland to cover on the road as favorites here, -5.5. Got a bunch of guys already listed out for Utah. No, John Collins isn't playing, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, all those guys are out. You've got Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler, both questionable. Would expect one of them to sit in this one. So that just leaves everything open for Portland without the best players available for Utah, obviously. Isaiah Collier is still probably going to do his thing and would still be taking over on his assists. We just don't even have props up yet for Utah because it's too important to see what happens with Kessler and Markkanen before we can make that bet. But the bet that I really like the most here is going to be them to cover. If we see both Markkanen and Kessler play, I actually like the over a lot more. Both these teams have been playing really fast as of late. In their last 5, Portland's actually playing at the second fastest pace. Utah, and they're on the season's 11th fastest. In their last 10 games, 7th fastest. So both these teams up in the pace a lot, especially over the last 5 to 10 games. And Portland, while they haven't had as much success over their last 5, they definitely dropped down a bit. They're still playing at a high pace, still playing with a top 15 offensive rating and defensive rating, making them one of the top 15 teams in the league in the last 5 and definitely in the last 10 as well, with the 7th best net rating in their last 10 games. They're going to be playing without DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams, so do with that what you will, but I don't think we're going to see Walker Kessler. That would be why I don't think we see Walker Kessler, is because they don't have the bigs on Portland, I should say. And that will be a problem for Utah, especially when you look at the way that Portland is attacking the rim, right? We know that they have Jeremy Grant, Denny Avdia, we've got Anthony Simon, Shaden Sharp, all these guys really attacking the rim, Tumani Kamara as well, all really eating inside the paint, getting to the free throw line with the second best free throw attempt rate in the league over their last 10. And this Utah team struggles to limit free throws, bottom 10 in the league, giving up free throw attempt rate to their opponent. They are going to need Walker Kessler because of the way that this Portland team is crashing into the paint a ton, right? They're getting to the rim with the second highest frequency on the season, taking the 5th most shots at the rim as well. So because they don't play that fast, they don't get quite as many attempts as other teams, but they are efficient, right? And they're scoring a ton right at the rim. You also look at the way that they move the ball. The assist percentage has gone up for them. The corner 3 and just really the catch and shoot 3 has gone way up for them. That's how you beat Utah. They are just awful, limiting stuff above the break, and especially in terms of giving up assist percentage to the other team. They're the worst team in the league. Well, we'll call them third worst in terms of the opponent assist percentage. In terms of the total assists, third worst. Assist percentage, basically the worst team in the league. So a lot of teams are able to move the ball pretty consistently against them. I think the transition will be a problem as well. Portland's not getting out into transition as much as you would like about 14th or 15th in frequency. So pretty much middle of the pack, but this is like the team giving up the most transition opportunities in the league as well in Utah. So guys, like I said, like all the wings I just mentioned, Shaden Sharp when he comes off the bench, those guys are going to be attacking the rim. And if they don't have Walker Kessler, then they're going to be in trouble. But just on the Utah side, everything I just said really relevant to Portland being better in this game. But the other thing is I do like the over if we can at least get Markkanen. If we get Markkanen out there, then I trust the Jazz to come along, because with Markkanen out there over their last 10 games or so, they've been in the top 10 in effective field goal percentage. They've also been in the top 10 in free throw attempt rate, which is why I do think this game will go over, because I think both teams are going to be spending a lot of time at the free throw line. Both of them are in the bottom 5 limiting free throws, both of them in the top 5 or 10 getting to the free throw line. So this is going to be a game that stops the clock a bunch, and that does lead to a lot more points, as we see. Neither of these teams are world beaters on defense, but Portland has been a much better defensive team than Utah, at least over the last 10 games or so. So I do like Portland to cover. If you see Markkanen out, I definitely love the over. In addition, we'll be betting both of those. So that's all the time we have for you in best bets. Going to get over to those player props and get those up for you as well. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us until we see you next. Happy betting.